Hi everyone, my name is Eleanor Walsh and I'm doing a presentation on Las Trece Rosas. I decided to do my final project on Las Trece Rosas when we learned about them briefly in class. I was really interested and I wanted to see more about what they were about. So I'll get into the full story about Las Trece Rosas in a minute, but it's the name given to a group of 13 women who were executed by a Francoist firing squad on August 5th, 1939. And the picture on the screen is of Las Trece Rosas. The top picture is the actual woman with a few other women, and the bottom picture is from a film made about them that I will discuss later on. Also under the title, I included a quote from one of the Rosas, and this quote has inspired many works of art that have honored their story, and it says, "Que mi nombre no se borre de la historia," which in English means, "Let my name not be erased from history." This was said by one of the Rosas, Julia Canessa, in the letter to her mom before she was executed. And just below this, I listed all of the names of the Rosas, which goes along with that quote. So, who are the 13 Rosas? The 13 Rosas are 13 women involved in young social organizations in Madrid during the Francoist regime and during the Civil War and after. And many were involved in JSU, which I included pictures of JSU propaganda on the left. And JSU is a it stands for Unified Socialist Youth Organization in English. And they lobbied against political, social, and the economic goals of fascism. And other Rosas were involved in PCE, which is the Communist Party of Spain. So basically all these women were involved in organizations that were the opposition of Franco. And their involvement in JSU and other leftist groups was eventually what led to their conviction and their execution. Eventually, all the women ended up in prison for their opposition to Franco and their activity in these organizations, such as spreading leftist propaganda. And as we learned in class, being a woman fighting under Franco was incredibly brave because the gender roles under Franco's regime were very traditional and patriarchal and were how a traditional Catholic household would be. I think this contributed to why the woman went down in history, because by executing the Rosas, Franco showed that any opposition to his regime, even a woman, would not be tolerated. So the women were all sent to prison, and they went to Las Ventanas, which is Madrid's all-female prison. And they were treated super cruelly in prison, but their misery eventually ended in the sacrifice of their lives when they were executed. So while the women were in jail, the commander of Madrid's fascist police, his daughter, and also the driver of his car were all killed in an attack. As a result of this, the regime ordered the execution of some of the leftist prisoners. The women who were already in jail at the time or during the attack were innocent, but despite this, they were executed 2 days after the trial, and the letters of pardon were not processed, and they were killed by a firing squad on the east wall of the Almudena cemetery. Alongside them, eventually 43 men and a 14th Rose were executed for the same charge. The 14th Rose wasn't executed alongside with them just because of a misspelling in her name on the day of. But I think the story of the 13 Rosas has been remembered in history as a story of hope and sacrifice, while also sharing the brutality of Spain under Franco. The 13 Women's story has been carried on through various types of literature and film, sharing their story so that it isn't forgotten, and I'm going to discuss a few of them. Most popular, and I have the movie cover up on the screen, is the film Las Trece Rosas, a 2007 film by Emilio Martinez Lazaro. The film is fictional, but is guided by a true story of the 13 women. And the main concept of the film is to preserve La Trece Rosas historical memory, and it follows the personal lives of 13 women as well. So that's a perspective that we don't get in any of the other works that I'm going to discuss. And in the film, the women are depoliticized and their story is romanticized for the public eye. So it glosses over some of the violence and suffering that the woman endured. But despite this, I think that fictional movies like this one, even if they stray from the violence or entirety of the history, are important to carry on the hope and symbol of gender and social equality that the 13 women stood for. There are also other works, such as the documentary Que mi nombre no se borre de la historia, which is on the left of the screen. And this is a documentary by Jose Maria Almela and Veronica Vigil. And the documentary explains the Rosas story from real testimonies of people who lived during the time, some of whom even belonged to the JSU, which, as I discussed, the Rosas were a part of. Next, I have a book by Carlos Vanesca, Trece Rosas, Rojas y la Rosa 14. And this as well tells the story, and I believe this is what the movie was based off of. And then I also included one last book by Jesus Ferreira, which is Las Trece Rosas. And I just wanted to show these all as examples of how their life inspired these works. And all of this art that was created honors the fight and how they sacrificed their lives fighting for something they believed in. And I think works like this are crucial in remembering history and carrying it on through generations. Lastly, I wanted to include something local to Madrid, which is a memorial for the women in the cemetery where they were shot, actually against the wall where they were shot. And there are 4 plaques that have been put up over the years honoring the spot where they gave their life. And as you can see here, you can see the different dates. And some of them include their names or the Que mi nombre no se borre de la historia quote. And they've been donated by different groups. And I think they're a really nice way to honor the 13 Roses' lives and show that their story isn't forgotten over the years. In conclusion, I think their story being carried on through films, literature, memorials, etc., all reveal the truth of injustice that these women and others faced at this time under Franco and are important in carrying on their story. That's all I have today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys are all healthy and good luck on your finals.